What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sloppy Saturdays. And today we are going over everything, the two games between these two semifinal matchups. And we're going to preview a little bit in this episode the national championship as well, as we are finally down to the end of the season. The first game I do want to go over is the bloodbath between Indiana and Oregon, and that's a little more fresher in my mind as it happened, as it was the second game. Now, getting into this game, again, I thought there was definitely a chance Oregon could have won this game. That did not happen. But going into this game, every single person had said Oregon cannot make mistakes. That was the biggest thing. This Indiana team is so disciplined, possibly the most disciplined team we've ever seen in the history of the sport. That's their biggest strength. They capitalize on opportunities that are given to them. And not only that, they don't make mistakes on their end as well. So that was the biggest thing, obviously, going into this game. Now, when you look at how this Oregon game started initially, especially in the first half, I mean, we all know the first play from Dante Moore was a pick six by D'Angelo Pond. Great play, him jumping that route. One of the best players on this entire Indiana team. Then we also see Dante Moore fumble the ball as well. We see Dante Moore fumble the ball again, which wasn't, I don't think, on him necessarily. I thought it was more on De'Aaron Hill, not having experienced pass blocking. We've seen three major mistakes that basically all led to touchdowns for Indiana. And that was basically the story of this game being a bloodbath. Like, for Oregon, I thought they had a chance because they have a ton of depth and they have a ton of talent and they have a great coach in Dan Lanning, but they were just unprepared for this matchup. Indiana obviously looks like a team of destiny. And for Indiana in this game, not only did they just dominate, I don't think no matter what Oregon did in this game, I don't think they were coming out with a win on this day. But again, if Oregon would have extended possessions, not made these mistakes, it definitely could have been a better game to watch, a much closer game. I think, again, them giving them these turnovers and then, again, Indiana scoring off those and not making mistakes on their end obviously made it a 30-plus point bloodbath. For Indiana, it's just insanely impressive. Again, like I said, how disciplined they are and how little mistakes that they do make. I mean, again, I thought they were completely dominant up front. I thought Fernando Mendoza received very little pressure in this game. Not only that, pass block, run blocking as well. The holes they're able to open up for these running backs. Kalen Black did have 2 touchdowns. They were able to rush for 185 yards on the ground. I mean, again, Fernando Mendoza's connection to Elijah Sarrett is just unreal, otherworldly. When they connect on those back shoulder plays, it is just completely unstoppable. And not only does Fernando Mendoza, when he's not pressured, does not miss a throw. It seems like, again, you're talking about another game where he has 3 interceptions and 5 touchdowns, more touchdowns than incompletions. Like, he does not miss. But this team overall is an absolute machine. Like, again, those back shoulder plays with Elijah Sarrett, getting to my point, Elijah Sarrett is blanketed on those plays. Yeah, Fernando Mendoza is putting the ball exactly where it needs to go, but also these receivers are making great catches. And then when you look at Charlie Becker as well on that deep ball, another ball where Fernando Mendoza is put it in the only spot that it needs to be. But again, an unbelievable contested deep ball catch that catch is even better than the throw. Like, this Indiana team is completely hitting on all cylinders. Another impressive thing for me with this Indiana team, and I believe it was said in the beginning of this game, and if you've been watching them all season, you have also noticed this Indiana team really only runs 13 players deep on this defense. So for this defense to fly and be that fast and capitalize on every opportunity when they're really only playing 13 players for the length of 4 quarters, extremely impressive to me as well. This Indiana team to me right now, again, looks like a team of destiny. I picked underdogs in these matchups because I did want to find a way for these guys to win. But right now, Indiana just looks like a machine. They're a way better team. They dominate in the trenches. Their quarterback, the Heisman Trophy winner, just does not make mistakes. Their receivers make spectacular catches. Like, they could beat you in any way. And again, the biggest thing why this team is so successful, in my opinion, and it comes from Curt Cignetti, is just the discipline. They capitalize on every opportunity that you give them. And on the offensive end with Fernando Mendoza, with this run game, they do not make mistakes at all. They do not turn the ball over. Like, They could beat you in the run game, beat you in the pass game. They're going to swarm on defense. This defense is incredibly fast. Now, again, for Oregon, yet again, I do believe they were a little bit undermanned in this game. I knew, obviously, Jordan Davidson was not going to play in this game. I didn't know the extent of Noah Whittington's injury at all. And that was a major thing as well. Like, you talk about a guy in Jay Harris, like, completely, like, his work in this game was more than his work the whole entire season. De'Aaron Hill, again, not really a great pass blocker, couldn't be in on every situation as well. And then you didn't have Noah Whittington. You didn't have Jordan Davidson. So, again, this run game and where you wanted to shorten the game for Indiana and rely on this run game for Dante Moore, for me, like, again, it just was not there. I didn't think they were going to be this undermanned. Like I said, I thought Noah Whittington was really trending on playing. Like, he got in for a couple snaps. He didn't have a carry this whole entire game. That was major for them as well, in my opinion. And then again, like I said, Dante Moore made critical mistakes you can't make. And this was a huge game for everybody's draft stock considered. We said if, like, Oregon was going to somehow win this game, Dante Moore's draft stock could possibly rise over Mendoza. Now there's obviously no shot at that. And now the biggest thing with Dante Moore as well is he ready to go into the NFL? Should he stay another year? For me personally, my opinion still stands on it, just based on what we've seen with quarterbacks in the past. We all mentioned Drew Aller as a common guy because it just happened with him. Like, if I was Dante Moore, again, am I 100% confident that he's ready to go into the NFL right now and start games and be successful? No way. But at the same time, like, I do not think Dante Moore should pass up on this opportunity where his draft stock is right now to go into the NFL because, again, you extended another year into next year. You don't know what it may look like next year. It is not guaranteed. And Dante Moore, again, he will get drafted high regardless. Again, is he going to be the number 2 pick right now after this performance? I'm not 100% sure. But there are more teams that need quarterbacks than quarterbacks out there. He will get drafted fairly high. And I don't think that would be the situation next year at all. Because if Arch Manning was in this draft class, he would 100% go over Dante Moore, let alone he may be the first quarterback taken. He's going to be in next year's class. Same thing with Julian Sang, another guy that people have been waiting on. I had a Q go above Dante Moore. So, again, let alone that I don't think Dante Moore will be the first 2 quarterbacks in the class next year, and you take the risk of ongoing another season, yeah, Dante Moore could 100% get $4 or $5 million from Oregon. But is he going to get that lengthy deal, that money guaranteed for the long term? No, not right now, as he would be going into the NFL. Would he get that lengthy deal? So, again, if you're a Dante Moore stand for an NFL prospect, which I'm personally not, I would not let one game really decide your opinion if he should be an NFL quarterback or not. Like, if you're looking at NFL prospects, you got to look at the full body of work. You got to look at the potential of these players as well. It shouldn't just come down to one game. But this game could have massively improved his draft stock. Right now, again, it probably diminishes it, or he might just stay where he's at just based on the needs of the NFL. But again, everything we're going to talk about with Oregon, obviously they've had a huge transfer portal today. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, but I think Dante Moore, I think there's no chance that he should really stay. That's my opinion. I don't think he could improve his draft stock by staying another year. Your ultimate goal is going to the NFL, this long-term amount of money. So again, was a huge game for him. He made some monumental mistakes, some mistakes you couldn't make. Again, my ending thoughts on this game, Oregon would have had to play a perfect game to win this game. I think there was no way on this day, after seeing everything that unfolded, that they had any chance of winning this game, whether it was with the turnovers or without the turnovers. But you have these turnovers. This is what ends up making it a bloodbath like it was. If they were able to extend possessions, have a solid run game, again, take time off the clock, you could have made it a much closer game where, again, maybe in the fourth quarter anything happens. But, again, with the turnovers that Indiana capitalized on, but how much Indiana really dominated them in the trenches with their pass protection, with their run protection. Again, there was just no shot Oregon was going to win this game on this day. Indiana looks like a team of destiny to me. We're going to get into the next game as well, then preview the national championship. We're going to go in Miami, Ole Miss. Now, Miami, Ole Miss was a very interesting game to me. Again, I thought this was a spectacular game to watch. Games that really came down to the last play. We saw each quarterback go band for band at the end of the game. We saw Trinidad Chambliss have a huge drive, connect on 2. Then we see Carson Beck go all the way down at the end, hit multiple passes at the end, runs in the end zone for the score. Like, again, Phenomenal game, phenomenal finish. But for Miami, again, when you're at this point in the semifinals, when you're approaching a national championship, there is no doubt you just want to survive and advance. And they did that. They got in the national championship. But I would not be holding my head up so high if I was Miami because I feel like Miami dominated this game the whole entire way through. I feel like they had the better team in the trenches the whole entire way through, and they barely got out of the game. I feel like this game again could have went into bloodbath type of territory if they would have capitalized on every opportunity. When we look at the time of possession for Miami, they held the ball like triple what Ole Miss had. In the beginning of this game, I feel like Miami's defense was swarming. Trinidad Chambliss, credit to him. I thought he played well in this game. Again, it could have been a lot different if Miami would have pulled down one of the 4 interceptions he could have possibly threw. But I feel like Trinidad Chambliss was dealt a really tough hand. I thought the beginning touchdown for them with Kawan Lacey, that 73-yard touchdown, was huge for them because this offense really couldn't get anything going, and he exploded on that one play. But for Trinidad Chambliss, the Miami ferocious defensive front, I feel like his offensive line was not really playing to their strengths. Obviously, I don't think they were protecting him too well. I get it. Ole Miss is a tempo offense, and they like to get the ball out quick. I felt like at times they were rushing, but at the same time, Trinidad Chambliss really had that internal clock where I feel like he was getting the ball out pretty well. And again, for this Miami defense, like I said, to dominate Ole Miss's offensive front and to only sack Trinidad Chambliss one time, I thought was very impressive on Trinidad Chambliss's end. But again, when you look at Ole Miss, the amount of possibly, again, 3 and outs that they had, and then mistakes they made on defense. When we look at the drive with Keelan Marion as well, we saw 2 broken coverages for him. He had a phenomenal first half, and I thought he was one of the difference makers for this game. Like, you always look on, again, the Malachi Tonys, the Mark Fletchers. But when you have a guy like Keelan Marion escaping for a touchdown, and when you have him on a big drive, really connecting twice on that drive, he has 114 yards and a touchdown in the game. When somebody steps up like that for your team, I believe that was a difference maker. And again, this game wasn't pretty, like I said, for Miami. I thought Malachi Toney was instrumental in his screen pass as well that he took for a touchdown. Mark Fletcher just has been great this whole entire college football playoffs. 22 carries for him, 133 yards. But Carson Beck, again, very inconsistent for me down the stretch. And then when we look at Miami rushing the ball, they carried the ball 51 times, and they also ran a lot of behind the line of scrimmage plays, screen passes. Carson Beck, when it came down to intermediate and deep routes, he's just not close on some routes. I believe that's also where Miami left a lot on the table. I feel like in this matchup, again, I did have Ole Miss winning this matchup, again, going for the underdog, trying to see it. But Miami was definitely the more dominant team in this matchup when it came to time possessions, when it came to who's better in the trenches, whether it's protecting Carson Beck on the offensive line, getting the Trinidad Chambliss with constant pressure on the defensive line, speeding up his internal clock. Like, Miami was the way more dominant team in the trenches, and it showed. Again, a big thing for Ole Miss, obviously, Kawan Lacey wasn't right after that touchdown. He did continue to play in that game, credit to him, but we all saw that he wasn't right. They couldn't get much run game going after that. I mean, he has a 73-yard touchdown run, and they finished with like 120 yards. So they couldn't really get the run game going there, but I thought Miami left a lot on the table. Like I said, between the 4 picks that they should have had, between dominating the line of scrimmage, the missed throws by Carson Beck. And again, I don't want to hammer too much on Carson Beck because he had a legacy drive, a drive that you live for. When it came down to getting it done at the end of the game, he completed multiple throws and had a huge run. He led that drive. He saved his best drive for his last drive. So again, ended up winning this game. But what I do want to lead into in this Indiana-Miami national championship is how Miami left a lot of stuff on the table against Ole Miss. This cannot happen against Indiana. Again, it sounds repetitive with Indiana. We're saying it every single time. You can't turn the ball over. You can't make mistakes against Indiana. The amount of mistakes that Miami made in this game, they were the better team that ended up winning out against Ole Miss. But this cannot happen against Indiana. Cannot happen. Carson Beck is going to have to play his most consistent game of football if they want to come out with a win against Indiana. My biggest issue with Miami against Indiana, I feel the game plan that they have been running is not going to work against a team like Indiana. when you see Carson Beck, the ton of plays behind the line of scrimmage, the screen passes, I feel like personally Indiana is going to swarm to that. And then, like I said, when you look at the inconsistency between short and intermediate routes and deep routes for Carson Beck, like Fernando Mendoza does not have those inconsistencies. So again, everybody knows Indiana is the more disciplined team. But for Miami, like I do feel like there's a way Miami can stay in this game and make it a game for sure. Because I feel like out of all the teams Indiana has played against in this college football playoff path, Miami does have the best like trenches. Like they're really good on the D line, really good on the O line, and that could keep you in this game. But again, like I said, they're going to have to be extremely disciplined, and Carson Beck is going to have to play his best game of football for 4 quarters. It can't be like this Ole Miss game where you're inconsistent for 3 quarters and you put together a legacy drive in the fourth quarter. Because again, if you're inconsistent with Indiana for 3 quarters, you're not going to be in the game in the fourth quarter. So again, I think Miami is definitely going to have to change their game plan a little bit. I don't think you're going to be able to capitalize on a ton of behind the line of scrimmage plays with how fast, how disciplined this Indiana defense is. And then also at the same time for Carson Beck, if you want to hit these, you got to hit these medium and deep routes because again, Indiana has that type of game where they're not going to miss throws at any level. They're going to have this run game that's going to be consistent. So again, I think again, there is a world where Miami could make this game very close and very interesting towards the end, but they are going to have a different style of game plan. It can't be a ton of behind the line of scrimmage plays. And Carson Beck, like I said, it's going to have to be his most consistent game. Again, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Indiana from a personal standpoint, they look like a team of destiny to me. In my opinion, they have laid over everybody in the college football playoffs so far. They're the most disciplined team. They seem like a team of fate to me. There's no possible way that I could pick against Indiana in this matchup. Miami, like I said, they have the depth in the trenches to make it a game. And if everybody plays to the best of their ability, who knows what could happen? Who knows? You get a game to the fourth quarter, who knows? But it's really, again, going to come down to Carson Beck being consistent on all of his throws. I don't think he could have a game like he did with 14 incompletions. Obviously, they rely on their run game a lot, but I don't think the line of scrimmage plays is going to work, even though you have a player as talented as Malachi Toney on this offense. I don't think that's going to work. Again, with how disciplined Indiana is, we know they're not going to make mistakes. We know they're going to capitalize on every opportunity. I have Indiana winning this game. I do think it's possible, again, for Miami to cover in this game. I think there's a way, again, whether it's Carson Beck being disciplined for 4 quarters or if it's Indiana being up by 2 scores and Miami maybe putting in something late, I do think it is possible. But again, the other issue for me, too, is with this Indiana, Miami, and we've been seeing it for a couple of straight years now. We saw it last year with Ohio State, Notre Dame. We saw it the year before, Michigan, Washington. I want to get to a national championship where it's a close spread, where really anybody could win it, where there's not a heavy favorite, touchdown favorite. We've seen so many years now, stacking up years where there's been touchdown favorites, which I don't really like. But again, credit to Kurt Cignetti. This has been phenomenal. And Kurt Cignetti really going off his NIL and transfer portal philosophy has been so different from everybody else's. And it may be something that a lot of people may adapt in the future. Again, he doesn't go off necessarily potential. He said he goes off of where a player is at right now and what they could do for them right now. We saw this team really be not only the most disciplined team, but it comes down to experience. I mean, he has the oldest team in college football, but that's also a credit for him. He's not going off of that 5-star talent in the transfer portal. He's going off of development, keeping players for 3-4 years in a system. We saw the amount of players that developed with him, like Elijah Surratt at a JMU, continues to go with him to Indiana. And again, they have the most experienced players. That's why they are like that right now. Again, I am excited for the national championship. I'm hoping it's a really good game. But again, it could go either way with this Indiana team because this may have been like when you talk about terms of scoring a college football playoff run, we may be looking at the most dominating run in college football playoff history. Again, a lot of people want to make this comparison with Indiana and 2019 LSU. I think you're kind of comparing apples and oranges. I think you're comparing a team like LSU that had just like more raw talent, more like eye breathtaking talent. But then when you look at Indiana, they're a completely different team. They're like one of the most disciplined teams, like I said, one of the most oldest experienced teams. So I think you're comparing two different things. Obviously, like I'm taking 2019 LSU as pretty much everybody listening is, but you're comparing two different teams again. I hate the hypotheticals too. Like again, we're talking about stuff that we can never actually prove. Going on a little bit of a tangent here. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays. Drop down below your predictions on these games. Drop down below. Do you think there's any chance that Miami could win this game, or you think Indiana is just that team of destiny, team of fate? That wraps up this episode